Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hawks Eye View. I'm Andrew Barber here with Drew Shipley, as always, and good to be back for the first time in a couple of weeks. Drew, how you been?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say as always, Andrew. I kind of feel like we're in the off season, right? Which for the majority of primary sports we are, right? Lots to talk about though on the basketball front for sure. I've been okay, man. Back from Mississippi. I don't think we haven't had a podcast since then. So down there for 2 weeks for some military training. It was awesome. It was a very long trip. It's nice to be home. I don't know if I've told you this, Andrew, but on the side, I Uber drive, and for that reason,
nice.
the reason for that is it turns out that a wedding is expensive, and I have a wedding to pay for in November, and you got to start putting away some sock money, my friend, because it's the bill's coming due in November. So, so have you seen the movie Kingpin, Andrew?
Is that the bowling movie?
Yeah, with Woody Harrelson and yeah. So I feel like the Amish dude, right, where he says he has to work a time and a half harder than everybody else. That's what I'm doing for my indefinite future to pay for this thing. So, if I got to go drive for Uber for a couple hours after work, so be it. But it'll get done. No, things are good. I'm home. Weather is kind of shitty, but that's all right. Things are good.
That's good. I'm glad. I'm happy for you. Yeah, like you said, lots to talk about. Probably the biggest news of all is Lisa Bluder retiring, calling it a career, seemingly out of nowhere to all of us. We can talk about, I think this was very well planned with Beth Getz and Jan Jensen and everybody else behind the scenes. As quickly as Jan Jensen was named head coach, it feels like this was a very planned move behind the scenes, but I didn't really have any word or any inkling that this was going to happen. Just kind of came out of nowhere on Monday?
Let's see. Yeah, it was Monday, right? Because the introductory press conference was today. Yep.
So, yeah, we just kind of had a little bit of a shock to our system go on there. I like it. I think it's a good move. It's the right move. I mean, there was maybe one other name that I had in mind for the job, but I'm totally cool with Jan Jensen getting a shot, and I think this sets Iowa's momentum that they've built. I don't think it sets it back at all. In fact, I think it keeps it on the same track where we were going.
Yeah, the hiring of Jan Jensen, Andrew, I think brings continuity to the program, right? So Jan Jensen was very integral part of recruiting, everybody in the past, everybody in the present, and then everybody in the future, right? From what I heard in the press conference, they are expected to lose nobody from the 2024 transfer class or the 2025 commitment class, high school class. So it sounds like they're not going to lose any of the recent commits, which is great, including Lucy Olson. So the fact that Jan Jensen's probably one of the primary people in those girls' living rooms, right, or phone calls being made, brings continuity to the program and some solidarity to its future, right? Jan Jensen, I believe, 52, 53 years old. So, I mean, she's got some longevity on her if she wants, however long she wants to coach. So it is exciting. It is the right hire. I think the person you were alluding to in other candidates would be Jenny Baranchek, right? That's my guess is who you were alluding to, which makes sense. Iowa alum, great coach, won everywhere she's been. Makes sense, but she's only 42, 43 years old, so she might be the heir apparent post Jan Jensen, and run it back 10, 15 more years from that. So, I mean, you might be looking at a women's coaching staff history of, 3 head coaches over the course of 60 years, and that's pretty awesome. And that's obviously that's long down the road, but definitely a possibility of that coming to fruition, I think. And the women's team is pretty much in the same position as they were before Lisa retired, which I'm not 100% sure. I'm on the conspiracy theory, Andrew, of did she retire or did she step down for a break and another opportunity at the next level, perhaps Indianapolis. Did you watch the game last night? Did you watch the Fever game last night?
I think a lot of people are with you.
As they should be. Did you watch that offense run last night?
Yeah, I did watch that offense run. That was awful. So
I don't know how much we want to talk about Caitlin Clark moving forward, right? Hawk's Eye view, no longer a Hawkeye. I mean, we'll make periodic comments, but I wouldn't necessarily say like full segment Caitlin Clark moving forward. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Probably not.
Yeah. And you know, everybody dogging on her and on the book of face and like, oh well, we freaking told you she couldn't do it. Whatever, dude. She had no help. Aaliyah Boston put up 4 points and she was the rookie of the year last year. What the hell was she doing last night?
Right.
Caitlin Clark still led the entire court and point and scored. You know, 10 turnovers.
Yeah.
Man, Andrew, I've been saying that all fucking year. Like, got to cut down on the turnovers, especially going to the next level. Got to cut down on it. And not only that, she like doubled the amount of turnovers she normally did. You know?
Jeez.
No free flowing offense, no movement whatsoever. Like what were they doing? This, I think, second year head coach Indiana might be over her head. She was a rookie coach being hired in the first place. And there was another good point this morning. I was listening to the Morning Rush with Ross and Travis. You know, Indiana had the number 1 pick for a reason. It's because they sucked. And it's the second straight year that they've had the number 1 pick. So they've had a history of sucking. And not just Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark are going to make them a playoff contender year 1. It's just not going to happen, you know. At least I don't think so. But Jesus Christ, man, like Caitlin Clark had 10 days off before they were at rookie camp? And then like 2 preseason games, and here we are like 4 weeks removed from the national championship game. And they're playing regular season games. Like they gotta tweak this WNBA schedule, man. Like there's no reason for it. Like, can you go towards the end of the NBA finals? You know what I mean? Like have your own spotlight. You're balls deep into the conference semifinals, which have been really exciting as far as I'm concerned, as men's, you know, NBA basketball is concerned. All the series, I mean, outside I guess the Celtics Cavs series so far have been really compelling. Don't know what's going to go on. Really exciting to watch. But and then you go up head to head against that for no apparent reason. You could have waited 3 weeks for this shit. Where NBA finals have like 3 fucking days in between games.
Right. Yeah. What you're talking about is an overall marketing problem with the WNBA. But I want to go back to Iowa. I want to keep the focus on Iowa here.
Yep, you're right. After I just got done saying probably won't have full Caitlin Clark segments, then I just went on a tangent. Sorry.
It's okay. One last thing I'll say about a former Hawk is future Iowa basketball coach Kate Martin.
She made the roster, man. DMP last night. I did watch a little bit of that Phoenix Las Vegas game. The level of competition between the two games, between the Fever and Sun and the late game with the Mercury and Aces, night and day difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she made the freaking roster as a second round pick, the only player to do so, right? On a championship team, a reigning championship team. Says something about her. Becky Hammond must see something in her that brings value to the team, or she wouldn't have just kept her for shits and giggles, man. It's a business at this point, right? So, right. I mean, Megan Gustafson couldn't stick on a roster for the longest time, and she got minutes last night.
Yeah.
I don't know how I didn't see her final stat line, but I did see she had some pretty significant minutes in the first half. But yeah, I mean, you make the roster, you have a chance, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, there's other examples though of WNBA players being college coaches in the off season, like assistants on staffs. So if Iowa wants to do that with Kate Martin, they can. I don't know if Kate will want to do that in her rookie season, but on down the line,
I suppose you could be a grad assistant, right?
Yeah. on down the line, there's room on the staff now, right?
Well, and I actually didn't realize this, Andrew, till the other day that Jan Jensen's actually her like aunt or like second cousin or something. Like they're actually related.
Oh,
did you know that?
No,
I didn't know that. No, they're like niece, aunt, or like second cousin, something. They're family. It turns out that I just found out like 2 days ago.
Well, Kate Martin's qualified to be a coach in college.
Hey, graduate assistant in the off season instead of going to Russia and try not to get captured by terrorists. That sounds like a better deal to me.
Yeah, for sure. Go out on the recruiting trail and coach some basketball in the off season rather than and train on the side. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's at least one distinct possibility. I mean, she's got future head coach written all over her. Kate Martin does for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Same way I feel about Connor McCaffrey in the men's game as well. You mentioned the continuity as well in recruiting, and I just think that is just a huge factor. It's awesome that like Addison Deal and Lucy Olson are on board with this transition. Caitlin Clark and Kate Martin obviously came out in full support. Why wouldn't they? Everybody loves Jan Jensen, and she had multiple opportunities to leave. I mean, she was getting offers from other power conference schools to be their head coach when they had openings. And she even said as much today in her press conference. She said there were 2 or 3 times I thought maybe this is the right one. Maybe I'll leave Iowa. And she chose to stick it out. And props to her. She's been with Bluter since the beginning, since the days at Drake. So if there's any concern from Iowa fans about she's never been a head coach before, I'm not really worried about that. She's seen how it runs. She's going to put her own little spin, but largely I think the culture and everything behind the scenes is going to stay about the same.
You don't see this level of loyalty in the profession of sports anymore, Andrew. Like It's very, very, very rare. Like Phil Parker and Kirk Ferentz, for example, is another example of something like that, where Phil Parker could have been a head coach, 5 years ago at least. Jan Jensen, same way, yeah. And from the beginning, from the hard knocks of Drake University, right? Seeing those pictures from back in that day, man, like the 90s were a different time.
I love it. Bring it back. Bring it all back. Man.
Oh my God. So back to my point, loyalty paid off for Jan Jensen, right? Could have had a head coaching job long ago. Like you said, continuity, knows how the programs ran. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You're back-to-back title runner-up, right? Like, for a reason. So you're right. She'll have her own spins on things. You're going to be coaching in the shadow of not having Caitlin Clark.
Right.
So you're also playing with a larger Big Ten now of 2 or 3 perennial powerhouse programs from the Pac-12 coming over.
3,
and then in Oregon, USC, and UCLA, right? They were all top 4 seeds this year.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting. Like we said it before, and I'll say it again. Like this integration of the Pac schools into the Big Ten, starting in the football season, is going to be wild. Like I can't wait to see how it comes to fruition. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, for sure. One last women's basketball note here. I know that they're involved with Miriam Dauda, a 6'4" forward/center from Arkansas who hit the portal, former 5-star. I know they were working to set up a visit. I think they're still working on it. I don't know how good our chances are, but that would be a really nice addition because the thing that Dauda does is she's big and she protects the rim very well. She had multiple games last season with 10 blocks.
Jesus.
10 blocks.
Okay.
So her, but for her size, she's maybe not the best rebounder, and she can shoot from the outside, which is a plus. So and she can play with her back to the basket or in and around the paint too offensively. I think the thing is maybe her rebounding for someone who's 6'4" leaves a little bit to be desired, but she does provide like shot blocking, which is.
I mean, if you're blocking 10 shots a game, Andrew, somebody else, one of the other 4 women on the court can go get this shit.
Right. Not quite. Yeah, not quite 10 shots per game, but yeah, I think she averaged, over 2 blocks per game last year.
Yeah.
So that's good. Rim protection is something that we have not really ever had at Iowa with the women's team, and that kind of talent.
Yeah, not even Sonano, not even Gustafson, right? Like they were kind of like not to like bring them down a little bit, but they're a little slow on the defensive side.
Yeah, well, they just didn't have the athleticism to be blocking shots all over the place. So
yeah. That was a nicer word for it, Andrew. I feel bad for saying slow, but
I know what you're saying.
But it is what it is.
It kind of be an interesting thing where her and Stolke could be a little bit interchangeable. They would fit well, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then Ava Hayden, who we've talked about on this show before, doesn't have to get thrust into a starting role day one. She can come off the bench and be the backup center off the bench.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes peeled for that. I don't know if it's going to happen. I hope it does. We'll see. But let's flip gears a little bit, talk football. They got a couple of big transfers, what I would consider to be big transfers from the portal, both coming from Northwestern. And I think the biggest one is Brendan Sullivan, the quarterback. Instantly upgrades the backup quarterback spot. And I know that Kirk has said that he's going to have a chance to compete for the starting job. Cade is the starter if healthy, I think, but I don't see a reason why Brendan Sullivan shouldn't be in the competition.
It's funny that you say that, Andrew, because I believe Kirk Ferentz at the Polk County I Club event last night said both of those statements in the same paragraph, said that Cade McNamara is the starter. Brendan Sullivan has every opportunity to compete for the job. So which fucking one is it?
Well, to me, it's
also right. Brendan Sullivan only has 2 years of eligibility left. Is that right?
2 years of eligibility left.
So we're talking 1 year starter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or he takes over this year if Cade is injured.
And why is everybody shitting on Marco Linus still? Why is the kid not getting an opportunity to throw the fucking football?
Well, no, I don't think I think we just, if you have the chance to add quarterback who started and played in the Big Ten, like Sullivan has.
Yeah, what do you have? Like 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 picks or some shit?
Well,
isn't it something like that?
Let's go look.
I think it's something along the lines of that, but that was like 3 weeks ago when I saw that. But anyway.
Yeah.
They played in the Big Ten at Northwestern for Pat Fitzgerald, who fucking shit the bed and then got fired. And then, like, no wonder he transferred from Northwestern, dude. That program's going to burn to the ground here, like, in the next month or two. Like,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But what I think this does is Sullivan has a connection to Tim Lester. Tim Lester recruited him. Another thing that I like about Sullivan is he's mobile, right? Last year, our options were Deacon Hill or Linez, who really wasn't ready. And my understanding is that Linez isn't really ready next year. And I think next year it's an open competition between Sullivan and Linez for the job. So I think Sullivan gets to compete this year and next year for the job, probably has the inside track to starting next year. And I think that's fine because it's a Big Ten quarterback who started, who's had some good moments. I know his stats aren't eye-popping, but he's had some good moments.
What is the stat line? Did you find it?
Yeah, 1,300 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
Oh, 10 and 5. I shorted him on his tutties. That's my fault.
Yeah, and anyways, he's not turning the ball over every other play, seemingly like Deacon Hill did. And he's not immobile. So I think it's, again, another signal that Iowa wants to get away from the immobile quarterbacks We have James Rezar coming in as a true freshman as well. He's not immobile. His thing is that he can run, but he can't throw.
I was gonna say, wasn't he like a top 10 like dual threat quarterback on the list? Yeah.
He's a stud track athlete. He runs 100-meter dashes against wide receivers and corners in Florida and wins.
So let's put him in the fucking slot.
We've got the slot figured out, and to that end, Jacob Gill is coming over from Northwestern as well. It's another scholarship level wide receiver. Again, not eye-popping numbers. Has dealt with some injuries as well. But we'll take anything we can get at Iowa right now.
We're the land of misfit toys, Andrew.
Dude, until we prove something with the passing game, this is like as good as we're going to get when it comes to quarterbacks and wide receivers. Like, this is as good as we're going to get until we prove something this year. This is as good as we're going to get.
Look, man, you keep Caleb Brown and Luke Lachey healthy next year. That might be all you fucking need.
I agree. Well, Alstrenga is a decent pass catcher too.
Yeah, and wasn't he? Or no, it wasn't him.
Backup tight end.
Wasn't there a tight end that went into the portal and then recommitted back to Iowa? Who was the third? Who's the third string?
Pascuzzi. I think he's the fourth tight end.
Yes. Okay, but I did see that he went transfer portal, then came back.
Yep. So Caleb Brown, Seth Anderson has had another year of offseason development. I know that he was a little bit young last year, and it's just going to be a different looking offense too. I know that much. I mean, I went to the spring game. I saw it for myself. The offense didn't look pretty, but it also didn't look like the same old.
Okay.
And everything that Kirk has said, everything that I've heard from Lester, I think what we said, right, is hire an offensive coordinator and give full control.
Yep.
I think bringing on Sullivan and Gill, guys that have connections to Lester, is another indicator that this is Tim Lester's offense on and off the field. He has control over personnel decisions. He has control over, personnel decisions off the field and over the playbook and the play sheet on the field. And Iowa players have said as much as it's completely new playbook. We've heard Caleb Brown and Luke Lachey and everybody say it's completely new. It's different. It's fun. Caleb Brown even tossed out the fun word. I don't want to get into off-season hype train, but again, I think you can expect something different. How much better is that something different? That remains to be seen. I'm just encouraged by them just simply trying something different.
It literally can't be any worse, Andrew.
I know.
Literally.
I know.
Okay. Just make
I know. I understand. But Kirk has dug his heels in the ground before and said, I'm not changing. This doesn't appear to be that. This appears to be the opposite of that.
I'm wondering how much influence Beth had in that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she had some.
I mean, Kirk's had 24 seasons of being stubborn in his ways, right? Of running football from the 90s. So it's interesting that it's just coming, kind of flipping.
Well, what I've heard is that I think Kirk has a lot of not a lot of hesitancy in giving things over to Lester because of his prior head coaching experience.
Okay. So he wouldn't trust his own son to run something fucking else, but he'll trust an outsider, huh?
Apparently.
Okay.
That's totally fine by me.
Yes, please.
Totally fine by me.
Please, I'm still betting the under in every fucking game. I don't care what it is.
I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna go the over in every game and see how
Iowa team total in the Big Ten championship game, fucking 7.5.
Over.
Oh, okay.
Over.
Shit.
Yeah, I think Caleb Brown's in line for a huge season. I think he's going to have an awesome season. He said his goal is 1,000 yards. I think he can almost get there. It's going to be wild.
When is the last time we had a 1,000-yard receiver? Do you know?
McNutt.
That's what I thought.
McNutt. Yeah. I know. I'm fully aware of all the stats.
Shit.
And the unlikelihood and all of that stuff. But I feel good. I think the offense is headed in a new direction, and I like it. I mean, Lester has spent some – we talked about his time in Green Bay, and it sounds like he wants to install some version of the 2023 Green Bay offense, which was one of the best offenses in the NFL.
With a whole bunch of nobodies, which sounds really familiar.
Right. Yeah, and we don't really have a whole bunch of nobodies. I think there's some talent there.
Well, Caleb Brown for sure.
Lachey
for sure. The stable of running backs for sure. But man, it just exercising common sense, like I said, pretty much all year last year, Andrew, is let's get the playmakers in space and let's put the bangers between the tackles and see where the chips fall. Let's not put the 160-pound running back in between the tackles and then tight ends on fucking swing passes. You know, like let's set up the team for success.
No, and I think that is exactly Tim Lester's mindset.
That's good.
It's not going to be air it out, score 40 points a game. It's going to be put guys in positions to succeed.
Yep.
And then they have to go make the plays.
There was some slight breaking news from the iClub event last night. Kirk Ferentz did say that they are playing a Friday night game on the road this year. Didn't say who. The speculation is anybody but Ohio State. So if you look at the road opponents, I'm not sure what the Friday night game would be. Maybe they play at UCLA, I believe, right? In the Rose Bowl.
Oh, maybe it's that. Yeah.
That's what I'm leaning towards. The last time they played on Friday night, they played out here in College Park against Maryland. They play at Maryland again this year. I doubt they run that one back because
no,
that's the last time we put up 55. So
it could be Michigan State. I could see that. Yeah, I could see.
I'm not sure. Maybe not UCLA just because of the time deal. Because Fox Friday night is going to be prime time, so they're not going to kick off a prime time football game at UCLA at 5 p.m. Pacific.
What would be really nice is if it was a Friday night game against Minnesota.
That'd be interesting.
And the reason why I'm saying this is because it'd give us an extra day off going into a game on the road at Ohio State. We'd play Friday night the 20th and then get an extra day off to go prepare for Ohio State the following Saturday in Columbus. Not saying that we're going to beat Ohio State, but having an extra day for Phil Parker to figure something out defensively couldn't hurt.
I'm not scared of Ohio State. I'm not.
I am.
Are you?
That team is loaded. Yeah.
And they still can't even compete with Michigan. Like, they're not even close. Not the last 3 years.
That team is loaded. But like I've said before, I'll say it again. I think 11-1 is probably the ceiling for this team, but I think 9-3 is the floor. Also heard speculation this morning, or just conversation, that would Iowa be better served going 10-2 in the regular season and not getting thumped in the Big Ten championship game and make the college football playoff than go 11-1, lose 42-3 again to whoever, and not make it? Or does it really? Or does it really fucking matter? I don't think it really matters. I think you take 11-1. I don't think you intentionally like try to go 10-2.
I'm not saying that you intentionally do that, Andrew. I'm just saying like speculation as fans,
No.
whatever. Right. So Ohio State, chalk it up as an L. What other games we consider concerning? Washington and Iowa City, right? Iowa State and Iowa State and Iowa City are like the two on the top of my head. Nebraska's a toss-up, right?
Yeah.
So like this schedule could also produce 8-4. Now, Action Network came out with over/under total wins. Have you seen that?
Yeah, 7.5. That's a joke.
That's fucking laughable. That is a lock.
That's a joke.
That's a lock.
Yeah, but I heard Miller and Condon talking about this with someone, and essentially what they're saying is they know that everybody's going to go on the over, and there's enough juice with the over.
Oh yeah, it's like minus 165, minus 170, some shit. Yeah.
That you'd have to put a lot of money on the over for it to make sense for you.
You know what they need to do? They need to start doing alternate line win totals. So
they do for some teams, but not for all teams.
Right. Well, probably just the powerhouses. Like I think Georgia came out at 10.5. Michigan came out at 10.5. Ohio State came out at 10.5. A wild one that I don't understand, Andrew, in their first year in the SEC, Texas is at 10.5, and I am fucking selling the farm on fucking the under.
Yeah.
On that. There ain't no way them motherfuckers going in there with 11 wins in the SEC. No way.
Blindly.
Don't even have to look at the schedule. Don't even have to look at it.
Right.
No.
Yeah, blindly not looking at the schedule. I'm just saying no.
They weren't winning 10 games in the fucking Big 12.
Oh, they would have if they stayed in the Big 12.
Maybe this upcoming year, but they haven't in the last 2 or 3, have they?
No, I mean last year they did. Didn't last year they go 12-0 or 11-1? They were in the playoffs last year.
What?
Texas played Washington in the semifinal.
Yeah, they did. That's right. That's because Oklahoma fucking sucked. And the Big 12 had to have a representative.
Right.
Because then they kicked out fucking Florida State, undefeated Florida State.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
Anyway, yeah.
I was going to tell you, if you want to make some wild wagers, I've got one in. Before the WNBA season started, I put this in. I don't know. You can probably get it at better odds now.
Fever playoffs, yes or no?
No. Caitlin Clark, MVP, and Iowa football to make the 12-team playoff combined.
What?
Combined into one ticket.
What's the odds on that?
Pretty long. I think $5 for 1,500 or something like crazy like that.
Dude, I'd fucking play that.
Yeah.
For
it didn't seem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was worth it.
I'm gonna look into that. For $5, I'll do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit wild, and again, people need to. Under the old system, the 4-team system, I probably wouldn't even consider this.
No, hell no.
But
with Iowa's football schedule and 12 teams making it now is definitely conducive for them to make it. Yeah. Now Caitlin Clark, I think might be like the 6th or 7th player's best odds to win the MVP, I think.
Yeah. There's no value in her for the Rookie of the Year.
No, that's a fucking lock.
It's such a lock, such a given that her for Rookie of the Year doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to take a little bit of a break and toss it over to Revelton and Kyle Lehman at Wintrust.
Why take the best corn in the world and make it into fuel when you could make it into whiskey? That's the question that launched Revelton, Iowa's most visible and fastest growing distillery. Owners Rob and Christy Taylor embrace the grain to glass philosophy, sourcing ingredients locally, and overseeing on-premises production and bottling at their facility in Osceola. One sip, and you'll agree that Revelton's handcrafted whiskeys, gins, and vodkas are the best you've ever tasted. And with the launch of their rye whiskey, made with 100% Iowa-grown rye and corn, and their new bourbon coming soon, there's more Revelton to love than ever. Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
Welcome back in. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors. We appreciate you. And let's flip over to some men's basketball, as there was some big news today for McCaffrey and the boys. They got a Seydou Traore. Sorry if I just butchered your name. Manhattan transfer.
Like University of Manhattan or like Kansas State?
Yep. University of Manhattan.
Big get for the boys.
It was actually.
I'm just
I
being
can't
a smart.
remember.
I'm being a smart ass, Andrew. You know I'm down on the Iowa men's team, but I digress. Go ahead.
I am this move. I would be too, but I think Franz made some stealth moves in the portal that I think sort of elevate the team, and I think that's maybe a little bit incumbent upon the decision that Peyton Sandfort makes as to whether or not he's coming back. I know he's not doing very well at the combine right now. Got injured today, went back in, but he hasn't shot particularly well, hasn't tested particularly well. But I think it might be a scenario where the draft class is so weak and NBA scouts might overlook the combine and look at the tape of what he did at Iowa and see some value in maybe – I've seen some mocks where he's in the late first. I've seen a lot more in the second round mocks for Peyton Sandfort, but either way, a draftable player in a little bit of a down draft class. But I want to go back to Traore. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. As a true freshman last year, averaged 12 and 9. I believe he was like he made an all-conference team in the MAAC. I like this move. He's got a lot of upside. He brings a lot of athleticism as well. That's his best trait, is his defense, his athleticism, his rebounding. And so I think he's 6'7", 215. He can kind of play the power forward. He can kind of play the small forward spot. If Sandfort comes back, he and Sandfort are kind of interchangeable, and they can just kind of mix and match who they're defending. I think it's a nice move because he's going to be like a fifth option behind Sandfort if he comes back, and Dix and Freeman. I think those are going to be your 1, 2, 3 options offensively. And then Traore is a fourth or fifth. He's not great as a shooter, but again, a Fran team doesn't need offense. They need defense and athleticism. And they added that with Traore and Thelwell. And Tadjo, who's coming in as a true freshman, and Dembele off the bench. There's a lot of rebounding and athleticism that this Iowa team has. I think they upgraded in that area, which is good. They upgraded the defense this offseason.
So the way you described the incoming transfer, right? Like the comp to me, right off the top of my head, is this another run back of Rebraca?
No, this is not a run back of Rebraca.
Okay. Because then you said they're interchangeable with Peyton Sandfort, but he's not a good shooter. So how does that work out?
What I mean is he can mix and match defensively. He can
Okay.
play the three. I feel like Peyton Sanford and Traore can play the 3 or the 4 spot.
Okay.
That's what I mean by interchangeable.
Got you. And what
The-
matters? Defense. And what matters?
Right. And yeah, and he's going to help with defense and rebounding, I think, in a nice way. So,
Okay.
and then, internal, and he's on the same timeline as Freeman and all the other freshmen because he's got 3 years left, just like all those guys do.
Okay. So that they could be working together for at least the next 2 for sure.
At least the next 2. Yep.
Okay.
And then a year 2 leap for Freeman and for Brock Harding, I think, is really what's going to drive next year's team.
How much are we going to miss Tony Perkins?
I don't think we're going to – I hate to say this. I don't think we're going to miss him a whole lot.
Man, I don't know.
I don't think we're going to miss him a whole lot because I think Thelwell is more of a true point who is not – whereas Tony Perkins, we put the ball in his hands a lot, and he could bring some scoring things that Thelwell can't. But again, we took a trade-off of scoring for a true point guard whose best asset is his passing offensively and then is not a minus defensively.
My concern, which is about the same concern of last year's roster, is there's not an alpha on this team. There's not a killer. There's not a. I'm assuming Peyton Sanford's gone. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And even if he wasn't, I would not call him a killer. I would not call him a Kevin Durant type. Like there's not like absolute go to critical moment. You know where the ball's going. Like this team lacks that. It lacked it last year. This team lacks it this year, in my opinion. That you still need a killer in crunch time. You still need one. Like defense improved great, but like in one possession games, who's the ball going to?
Right.
Nobody knows. Not Tony Perkins. Probably not Peyton Sanford. Where's the ball going to go?
Yeah. The answer to your question might be Josh Dix.
I hope so. Because there's been flashes of him. There's been flashes of Brock Harding. I understand the whole roster's young as shit. Like, I get that. But, like, I guess it remains to be seen, Andrew. Like, I don't know. I'm Debbie Downer on the Iowa men's program. I don't even know if it's warranted or not. But,
yeah.
The way they faded last year out of the tournament left me pretty salty. And then what was it? Was it a 2-and-done in the NIT? I don't even remember. They won the first game, lost the second.
Won the first game, lost the second.
Right. I don't know. I don't have a lot of optimism, I guess. Young team, like you said, like I get it. And there's been flashes with Owen Freeman, Harding, Dix. Got it. How this transfer works in his role. Peyton Sanford coming back or not. Like there's so many question marks for me. And what is it, May 15th? That let's get to September, October, and fall camp, and see what it looks like. See what the exhibition games look like. Who's Fran running out there, in the front, the starting lineup and the first 2 off the bench. Like what's it look like? I don't know. There's so many questions for me.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you, at times the last year's team really lacked athleticism and rebounding.
We've been undersized since Garza. I mean, let's be honest.
Right. And I feel like we have Fran addressed that by bringing in Traore from the portal and also Tadjo, who I think is going to be a true freshman next year, but is going to be a special player as well. We're going to have a lot of interchangeable parts there. And I think our athleticism and our rebounding is really going to take a big step up. Okay.
I'll trust your word, Andrew. You're more of the basketball savant than I am.
The thing is,
if you're optimistic, I will leave judgment out until a later date.
Well, you've got Traore, who's a plus defender, and Freeman, who we know is a plus defender, solid rim protector, but it also is pretty decent down in the post offensively. I think the development of Freeman, because he's a hard worker, I think he's going to eventually come out with a jump shot. I don't know if it'll be a 3-point jump shot, but I think I think he can develop a 3-point jump shot at some point in his career. I just don't know if it'll be next year. I guess what I'm trying to say is they're a little bit more balanced. They've maybe taken next year's team will probably take a tick down or two offensively, but increase the defense and rebounding to where I think it's probably going to be a team that's better overall. We'll be in the NCAA tournament hunt next year.
Oh, I mean, we were in the hunt last year, and then we had the Fran fade.
We were sort of in the hunt last year.
Fran fade.
The Fran fade isn't a real thing.
No, that was a real thing last year, my friend.
Yeah, it's not a real thing. But it's all right. So I don't know. I'm excited about next year's potential for the men's team. I think there's potential there. And I don't know. I'm not saying they're going to go on a crazy run in the NCAA tournament or anything like that. But if Samford comes back, I feel like they could. I feel like they could be, in that top 4 of the Big Ten. So we'll see.
So I'm not sure how much work Peyton Samford can do for his draft stock coming back, right? Because the draft class next year is going to be significantly better than this year's draft class.
Barely. I've heard next year's draft class isn't much better.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
this year's bad, but next year it's just like
some
slightly better.
Some poor ass college basketball being played on the men's side.
And not great international prospects. So you combo all of that together. Like,
wow, wasn't there like 5 or 6 in the top 10 of what I've seen NBA big boards are? Something
yeah.
Like
some NBA GM, I heard them say that this year's draft having the first pick is like having the 10th pick in previous years.
they're gonna want to trade down, but no one's gonna want it.
Yes, you're drafting like what you hope can be a solid role player with the number 1 pick.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah. So I don't know how much you can improve, but we'll see what like the evaluation says from this week.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
If the evaluation says you're not getting drafted, then he's coming back to Iowa. It's going to come right down to the last second like it did with Tyler Cook.
Well, and we saw how that worked out with Tyler Cook, didn't we?
Well, yeah, but Samford's a different player. So.
No shit. Samford can shoot.
Yeah. Right. Dude, I missed some Tyler Cook dunks, though.
Oh, God, yeah, that was the best part.
I miss some Tyler Cook dunks.
Yeah, that was great.
But, yeah, I think Traore and Tajo and Dembele, even to an extent, can kind of bring some of that stuff back. I don't know. I kind of like where we're at in terms of our big rotation next year.
Okay.
We've got a few options, I feel like. So
I'll take your word for it, man. You're the guru of basketball, so.
All right, I'm the guru of basketball. You're a baseball guru. However, I'm going to my first ever Iowa baseball game tomorrow night at Principal Park.
Man, you don't have to go. You don't have to go very far, which is pretty awesome.
I know, it's great. They're taking on the Florida International Panthers, I believe.
They are.
While we're there, I don't know anything about Florida International and how great of a baseball school they are. I'm about 7 rows up from home plate, so pretty sweet seats.
Shit, what did you pay for that?
$50 for 4 tickets.
Dude, that's not bad at all.
I know, it was great.
I wonder what the crowds will look like, Andrew, because since we're going to get in the baseball talk here, by and large, a disappointing season.
Mm-hmm.
with expectations of at-large tournament berth, potentially hosting regional, Big Ten title, all that projected, right? But that's why you play the games, Andrew. This team's only 29-20 overall, 14-10 in the Big Ten. As we talked previously before we went live today, they actually sit and are locked in the 6th seed in the Big Ten baseball tournament, regardless of what happens this weekend. Obviously, because Florida International is not a Big Ten team, so
Right.
conference play is over because the conference tournament's next weekend. That being said, locked into the 6th seed, so they can't fall out. The Big Ten baseball tournament, Andrew, only takes the top 8 schools to Omaha, so they get a preview of Omaha before Omaha, which is pretty cool. I believe, what is it, TD Ameritrade Park now?
Yeah.
They don't play at Rosenblatt, which I still think is criminal as a baseball fan, but it is what it is. Money talks, and it turns out a bank sponsors that stadium. So that being said, Iowa's pitching just hasn't got it done this year, all year. I mean, Brody Breck did break the single season strikeout record, school record for strikeouts, surpassing himself from last year. So whatever. But he also walks a lot of folks, and in fact, the entire pitching staff does. I believe leads the Big Ten in base on balls as a team. Iowa's not having a problem scoring runs, to be honest with you. They're just losing games like 14-8 or like 12-9, like games like that, Andrew. That when it comes to Selection Sunday for baseball, the northern teams always get slighted, right? And if we ever get Rick Heller on, which I've reached out to Sam Baszler, who's the PIO there for the baseball team, that would be one of my questions. Would be, why do all the northern teams in college baseball get slighted and disrespected so much about rankings and just being selected to make the tournament? Like, why are the numbers so skewed, towards the southern teams? And I don't know, like, why they can't get. Is it a talent difference, or is it just because they grew up in the South and all they know is fucking baseball? Or like, what is it? I want to know what Coach Heller's view on that is, because I mean, the Big Ten as a whole, terrible baseball conference this season. I mean, Iowa's the number 6 team in the Big Ten. Illinois is only 2.5 games ahead of them, who they dropped the series to in Champaign this last weekend, 2-1. They're only like 14-9 or 16-9 or something shit like that. So there's no dominant team there. The only team that's probably going to make the college baseball tournament is going to be the Big Ten championship winner, the tournament winner. I mean, it's not good. It's terrible. So I mean, Iowa's only path to make it to the baseball tournaments to win the whole damn thing. I mean, you're looking at Illinois leading the conference at 15-6, 30-17 overall, not ranked. Nebraska 14-7 in the conference, 32-18, also not ranked. Purdue's 33-19, and then after that, it's all 20 wins or less, or under 30 wins or less, which is 30 is almost like 30 is like the 20 in basketball, Andrew, if that makes sense. Like you're looking for tournament resumes, and it used to be like the 20 win mark was kind of like the baseline. For baseball, it's 30. For Big Ten baseball, you're probably talking more like 35. Because it's skewed because of whatever reason of the disrespect and slighted of northern baseball teams. But yeah, so I mean, you're looking at probably only one Big Ten team in the tournament, maybe two, depends on who wins it. Illinois is probably the only team up for an at-large consideration. So that being said, you should have a great time tomorrow at Principal Park. I don't know what the weather looks like. And
wonderful.
Is it? Oh, that's great.
It's gonna be like 74 and sunny until the sun goes down.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
It's not going to drop below 70 at all, and it's not going to be too humid. It's like 74, and then by the time the game ends, it might drop into the high 60s.
That's awesome. Hey, and you know who you get to see pitch tomorrow? Brody Brecht.
I get to see Brody Brecht 7 rows up from home plate.
Yeah, you get to see Brody Brecht throw 101 tomorrow.
A future first-round pick right in front of my face.
If he can cut down the walks, he will be.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But the pitching rotation they released today. Brody Brecht will pitch tomorrow. Cade Obermiller will pitch on Friday, and Saturday's undecided. Actually, Marcus Morgan's probably been the biggest struggle / disappointment of the entire staff. ERA over 6, and was considered the number 2 guy. I mean, I believe he had all Big Ten honors last year in the staff. So major step down for him, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. The Big Ten baseball tournament, Andrew, I don't know if you know or not, is a double elimination tournament.
Yep. Knew that.
The best path to success is get the first 2 wins. You get the first 2 wins, you're automatically in the semifinal. So you do that, then you have 2 losses to play with to get to the final. So with that pitching staff, I mean, especially Brody Brecht, it's going to give you the best chance to beat. Looks like Purdue is the 3 seed. Probably be playing Purdue next Thursday, I believe, is when it starts. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we have the pitching talent, we have the lineup. It just hasn't come together pretty much all season. Iowa hasn't won a series in 6 weeks. They've either split due to like a weather delay, or they've lost 2 out of 3. And I think they've been swept in a couple of series of teams that, quite frankly, suck. So, disappointed is a understatement for this team that started in the top 20 with aspirations to win the Big Ten and host a regional. So, I hate to end it on a negative note, but it is what it is, Andrew. Baseball is still being played. They have a winning record. They will, unfortunately, I believe Rick Heller had 3 straight seasons of 40+ wins. That will not happen this year. And I mean, I guess we'll see what happens in Omaha next weekend. So have a good time at Principal Park. Beautiful, beautiful weather. I also know nothing about Florida International, so it's kind of a weird placement of a series.
Yeah,
right before the Big Ten tournament. It kind of feels like Alabama playing Mercer before they play the Iron Bowl. That's what it kind of feels like. That's what it kind of feels like.
Okay, so the first year I had Iowa football season tickets was the 12-0 year.
Oh, so it was all downhill from there.
I'm just saying that the first year I go and support an Iowa athletics team.
You're telling me there's a chance.
Amazing stuff happens. I'm not saying that my presence at Principal Park tomorrow is going to propel Iowa on a miracle run, but I'm not saying it's not going to happen.
I mean, they need all 3 this weekend, Andrew. Let's just face it. They need to rack up win totals, and they've been victim of so many weather cancellations of the midweek games to get their win totals up. I mean, if they would have played all those midweek games, I swear there was 5 or 6 at least this year that have been canceled in midweek.
Yeah.
That if there were 5 or 6, then I would say for sure would be 4 or 5 additional wins to the 28 win total or 29 win total. So I mean, you're looking more like 34, 35 wins before this weekend. You sweep this weekend, there's 38. You win 2 Big Ten tournament games, there's your 40. But
right.
The weather has played havoc in Iowa City for baseball this year.
You talked about the bias with like the northern and the southern teams. It made me think of like hockey. Like a southern hockey team is not going to beat a northern hockey team. It's kind of the reverse.
Which is kind of funny, Andrew, considering the teams that have won the Stanley Cup in the last 3 years have been Las Vegas.
Right, but those guys all came from Russia and Canada and whatever.
Or the best part is that the Canadian-based NHL teams haven't won a cup since '93. So I don't know if you knew that.
Okay. My analogy is poor, but I kind of wonder if some of that, canceling of games due to weather and all of that is what holds Northern baseball teams back in college.
Just for the pure sake of lack of win total, or are you just?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like the pure sake of lack of win total.
Well, then why the fuck are we starting the baseball season in fucking mid-February, Andrew?
I don't know, because it's hot in the South in mid-February and the whole sport's tailored to the South teams. It seems
exactly. There's another fucking bias right there, built right in to your standard.
Yeah, right. I know. That's what I'm saying though. Like,
we got the Iowa Hawkeyes hosting Grandview out there, fucking, leap day, in fucking 6 inches of snow. Okay, whatever, man. Like, what
why?
the fuck? What are we doing here?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me.
It makes just as much sense as the WNBA schedule. So
that's what I'm saying. Is like baseball's a summer sport, not a February sport.
It is a baseball sport or a summer sport, which is funny because Iowa's the only state in the country that plays summer baseball.
It's like you're telling me I'm going to a May game and the season's winding down. Like Major League Baseball, we're not even halfway through the year yet in May.
We're not even halfway to the All-Star break.
I know. What I'm saying is, like, to me, May is when baseball is just gearing up. So, yeah, like you said, the scheduling for college baseball doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We should be starting in May.
And it's not a revenue generating sport, right? For the most part. So, like, I don't give a shit if we're catering to the South schools or not. Like, what are we doing here?
Right.
Let's move that shit back. Let's move that shit back 6 weeks and start in like the end of March and run it till June. Run it till the end of June.
Yeah. Or start in April and run it through July.
Yeah, like normal fucking human beings.
Right.
I've dropped a record amount of fucks in this podcast, Andrew. It's probably because we haven't had one in like 3 weeks or a month, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know if we can get a counter, but yeah, it is definitely a record for this podcast.
Chris Shipley, we need a fucks counter for our podcast. Hey, I did do a podcast with Chris the other night, Andrew. Filling in for Aaron Wall. That was pretty fun with Scott Reister.
About baseball.
About a book that he wrote about baseball and Spy, based here in DC. Andrew, how cool is that? So
that's sweet.
So shout out to Scott Reister, man. It was fun to talk to him. Really cool dude. He was so passionate about the book, Andrew. I don't know if you actually saw the pod, but so much passion in his face and excitement when talking about it. Like, you fucking sold me. So, yeah, pretty excited for him.
If it ever gets made into like a movie, Nicolas Cage in Baseball Spy, it just feels inevitable.
So first off, the premise is Little League, though, Andrew. The premise is Little League.
Oh, Arnold then. Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like the kindergarten cop or whatever type of.
Bro, the main character is 14 years old. Okay.
Oh, never mind then.
Like, we don't even have a child actor right now. That's probably like not being,
right,
acting in his own free will to.
In one of the Stranger Things kids.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Why not?
Yeah. Anyways, sorry, I clearly didn't listen to the podcast.
No, it's okay. It was a pretty good one. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Big week for Iowa athletics. Glad to get on here and talk about it. We'll probably come back in a couple weeks or so. Any last tidbits before we sign off and call it a night?
We're getting close to the dog days of summer, Andrew, and I'm kind of sad. Especially Iowa baseball kind of limping to the finish here. Like, usually this time of year, I'm ready for the Big Ten tournament. I'm ready for, we know Iowa's a lock for an at-large. Just waiting to see the tournament draw. NBA basketball is coming to a close, but we have Caitlin Clark, kind of, right? Well, we have Caitlin Clark. We just don't have the rest of the fucking roster. Anyway, hoping we get through the summer, man. We always do, but It's gonna be be a little scarce, I think, through the summer months.
Right. Yep. All we'll have is summer football hype and maybe a little bit of basketball hype as well for the women's and maybe the men's.
Right.
And yeah, we'll have to just live on the hype of how people are improving or how things look and all that kind of stuff.
It's Tim Lester's offense, baby. Let's go. We're gonna score 16 points a game next year.
We're gonna score 30, but I digress.
All right, fair enough.
Anyways, thank you for being on this podcast with me. As always, I appreciate you, Drew. I appreciate all of our sponsors as well, and all the listeners out there. Go ahead and find us wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you want to be, Facebook, Twitter. So thank you as always for listening. Have a great evening. Go ahead, Drew.
Shout out to Andrew Downs at AKC Marketing, broadcasting from their studios, man. You got to throw it out.
That's right. Andrew Downs.
AD. My man.
Andrew Downs is the best. He is the best for sponsoring and being our studio sponsor. We appreciate him greatly too. So
yes, sir.
Thank you for sliding that in there. I almost forgot you, AD. I apologize. Your
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. He's the reason you do this, Andrew, and you forgot him.
Your letter's in the mail, AD. It's okay. I'll have it out 5 minutes after this podcast ends. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. And as always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks, baby. Let's go.